and record, and we
Okay.
are recording. Great. Okay, so again, that was the projection that I saw in my mind, and it's because the style of your writing, it's the short sentences with a lot of details and with very kind of freshy and juicy. So I could really feel that in my senses. And it's very picturesque, and the message is very clear. And the thing is, I would just ask you, what is the purpose of this story? Like, what do you have in mind? We know the message, but if you will say tell this story, so what would you like that the effect will be of this story?
Right. So maybe I can answer that by talking about the journey of writing the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you were saying, Cindy, I felt this need to write the first part of that story, up to that point where I turned and drove away. Then I felt like okay, so then what happened after that is almost, for me, was like a second story, right? That this whole resolution to that. And in terms of writing it for this assignment, what I had in mind was helping potential clients or current clients know that, really bad things happen to people, and it hurts, and I know that. And if I'm saying you can get through this, and life can be good, you can learn the things you need to learn, whatever they are for you, that when that door, that proverbial door shuts, the window will open, that there's another path forward. That's the main reason I would want to write it for business, would be to say, I don't want to just tell you that I'm a therapist that you can trust, knows that you're in pain and knows how hard it is to face these things, and you can move forward. And I totally would not give myself a 6 on the end because it was actually funny. Ellen sent us a message saying, "Where are your stories? Cindy's turned hers in," and I had thought that was on Saturday, and I thought we had another day to write it. And so I was working on shortening it and trying to get a stronger ending of that invitation. But I didn't get that done.
For me, that was fine. It was really with this question mark, especially. So the reason I ask you, because it's because that was my impression also, that that you are so caring for your clients. So you really kind of want to cheer them up, to show what is possible or not, and that you live through that, and this is perfect. Now, if you want to strengthen that a little bit more, like from the business perspective, just a little bit, it's in the sycamore tree. You have the MO, which is moment of change, and this is the part when you say, because we know everything about what happened, what brought you to this point. And I love this phrase that you say, I learned more than I ever wanted to know about forgiving and letting go. I just love that. I feel like it has to be written somewhere with the gold letters. It's so beautiful, touching, and so full of emotions. Beautiful, really. That's the masterpiece. And then you say, leaving my security of my job, I moved across the country, made a new home in an old house on a beautiful tree lines. Really, you are a painter. I love your style, because it's really like I see all that. Put down new roots. Again, the tree and the roots and this home. It's like almost every, phrase that are you a writer also?
No.
Did you write a book or something? No?
I am writing a book, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think there will be a great success.
It's a book with stories in it, Monica.
Well, how would I know? It's perfect, and you're perfectly done for that. And then I opened my own therapy practice and deepened my quest to learn all I can about healthy relationships and use that knowledge to enrich my life and the lives of my clients. This is perfect. This is what we need. But at this point, this is the first time that I hear that you are a therapist. So I'm not sure if you've been already the therapist and now you just kind of know more about that, like in the story of Anne, the other Anne, or you just after that you learn therapy and then you start to practice. So the business side of that, I would need a little bit more of the explanation, just a little bit, because you don't want to, because the story is so great, so you don't want to cut it like saying, now I will tell you whom I am, but a little bit more of, of the hints, like that you have a lot of experience. So it's not only the life that you've been through, but also like serious knowledge, which in the GPS will be more necessary than in DNA. This is why I ask you, because in DNA it can be kind of almost like just, but if it's GPS, then you need more like the explanation is showing that you are a real expert. Like you can say like, and after 20 years of learning, or after 100 clients or 1,000 clients later, or whatever, something which will make us straight on believe that you have a lot of experience also in that. So that's the only thing that might be a little bit more added. Now, I like very much the story in the cafe, and that you swear only a few minutes later you looked and the waiter wasn't there. But if I would shorten something, that will be probably that, or the next paragraph, or make those two in one. I mean, I would miss it because it's so well written and you can see it, but it's not so necessary for the client to know all the details, how you met the other guy. I think it's necessary to know that you rebuild your life, and it's good because it's feasible, but maybe not so much of this juicy, nice things. So that will be the place to cut, probably, mainly. And yeah, I think the less later, everything that you wrote, it kind of really hooked me, so I was wanted to know, and it's really like a great story, like a movie. So yeah, and the ending with the question mark, great. So I don't know what it will be like if you will have more time. you can still write it and we'll check, but so far it's great. So Anne, it's really amazing story, very well written, beautifully structured, convincing, full of emotions. For me, I know that you would understand me if I would have a problem like that. I just need to a little bit more of the like the proof, the social proof that you are the one who really can help me with the knowledge, and that's only that. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great. I'm very, very happy to hear again your story. Great. So Anne, are you there? Anne, the other Anne Langley. How do you say it?
Langley.
Langley. I think she is not there. So I don't know. Are we going to maybe should we read it, or just I will just comment so
if you want somebody to read it, they can.
Okay, so do we? I'm not. I don't know if I am perfectly done for the right. I can read it, but
do you have it, Ellen?
Let me see. I think I can. I should be able to bring it up. Give me a minute and see if I can bring it up.
Okay, and in the meantime, I would like to say a word for Cindy. So Cindy, I love your story. It's beautifully written, and it's again also with all this nice movie style description, so I could see your story very well also. Now you ask me if there is something that can be still shortened, and you congratulations already for the shortening that much. I see some possibilities, and so actually, yeah, but it is kind of, it's, you know, I really would love to read because it's so beautiful, but it is really long, so I don't think we'll manage. So okay, the only thing, like when you okay, from the beginning, my son Daniel came into this world with heightened sensitivity and endured 6 surgeries in his first 6 years. All this paragraph, I would recommend you, Cindy, to shorten and move after the next paragraph. So your story starts here. One afternoon, I was gathered with the adults in my community, soaking in a sorely needed respite, when one of the Daniel storms hit. One of the adults of the childcare came into the room, quietly made their way to me, and whispered in my ear, "There has been an incident with Daniel, and you are needed." You see, this is the story. It's straight on. We are all, like, if you will say first the explanation, and then comes that, it's okay, but here we have to be hinted, and then you can explain after the paragraph that my son Daniel had some issues, and you don't need to do it so, you know, so big. You can just say it in brief words, and then you say, so here again, so here again, the impulse to use force to teach him a lesson was pulsing through my veins. So you you give some, like, you know, explanation what happened with your son, that he was had some issues, and then you go back to the story. Okay, then you describe the story. I love Daniel. Actually, I think he is brave, you know, telling fuck you to the, sorry, did I tell you? Okay, to the person of care, but he was right. I mean, he was right, she was wrong. You cannot do that for children. So I think, I mean, when I was reading that, I said, oh gosh, he did what is right. So, I mean, maybe he couldn't say so much, but okay. Anyway, so all this then description, which comes after the situation, how would you explain him, what to do or what not to do, then this is a little bit too much of details. You know, you don't need to say all what you told him exactly, and what he told you, and then what he told him, and what he told you. Just make it kind of shorter, okay? But it has to have this flavor, of course. And then you said, I turned to Daniel, you know what? You need time with me. Maybe we need time together. I just thought, because, you know, he's 6 old, so I that's the little thing. And then putting myself in Daniel's shoes, I sent all this, what you say about how you came to the solution of the story. It's great. You know what? We will, Ellen, maybe can we send to everyone the stories, even the long ones, so people can also relate to what I told? Because as I say, when the story is over, we cannot read all of them because we won't have time. But
sure.
So, but it's still a great story to read. And okay, so all the story then is great, and in the end you say how it happened, and that you gave him what he needed, and the conclusion is that it's beautiful. The ending, it says that I took comfort in seeing once again that when I dare to nurture my children's humanity through providing them with a secure attachment to me, nature will miraculously grow them up, assisting them along this journey. We are all on the becoming human. beautiful message, really strong, wonderful, and very universal. So here the story is really almost there. Now the question is, what is your specialty as the psychotherapist, Cindy?
This story is emphasizing my the arena in parent consulting.
The what?
Parent consulting.
Oh, okay, great. Because that was
I have a number of areas, but
right.
This story is for that particular service.
Exactly. So that was my main, because that was, I was hoping that this is for that, because it's exactly for that. So, and you, at any point here, you don't position yourself. So like, again, the same comment as for Anne, I would need at some point, some, of course, it depends in what circumstances you would tell this story. Because if you would say the story to someone who is already sitting there, and you want to tell this story, and this story that you use, it's not GPS, it's not DNA, it's a little bit DNA, but it's more see what I mean story. So you would say, like, to the parent, like, you can give that as example of how you can cope with situations, right, with the child. And you show you as an not perfect, which is great. Like you said, okay, you first say also to him, calm down and so on, but then you evaluate, and this is great. So, but if you will have that on the website or on the, like, you know, any public places with no attachment, then I think something about you being an expert or specialist in that would be necessary. Like, maybe only one phrase in the end, like after this ending, although it's almost too good to spoil that, saying like, through providing them with a secure attachment to me, nature will miraculously grow them up, assisting them along this journey we are all on to become human. We can take this path together. You see, with this parent, like you just say that you are there to help with that, and okay. That's maybe enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Cut. Great. So we go to story of Anne Langley.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Just give me 1 sec. Okay, here we go. I was ideally groomed for becoming a couples therapist because I grew up in a large Irish family as the fourth of 8 children. Being in the middle of 8 children ideally positioned me to become a skilled negotiator. Since my father was an alcoholic, I was uniquely prepared to become an addiction specialist who works with addicts and their family members. I'm sorry, 1 second. Pete, can you turn yours down? Because I hear it myself. I'm hearing myself like a sentence behind.
Yes, yeah, the echo. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. My deep love for... All right, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm moving quickly, Monica.
Okay, I know.
Impossible to talk like that.
I am very happy to see your beautiful apartment again. I saw your bowl with cereal, the one that Anne wrote also, that she had in her story. And you go up to my room.
Yeah, I could do that. I'll go up to your room. Okay. Should I start over or just start where I left off?
Yes. It's okay. My deep love for my alcoholic father. Okay. That will be the moment.
Okay. My deep love for my alcoholic father helps me truly enjoy working with alcoholics, in addition to having added insight into their emotional anguish. I have exceptional tolerance and patience with them as well. This is a rare gift because not all therapists feel they can work with addictions. I decided at the tender age of 12 that my father's alcoholism was a spiritual problem. He was seeking solace through his spirits, but alcohol was the wrong choice for healing his emotional wounds. I've also specialized in couples counseling since 1990, but sadly in 1996, my 25-year marriage ended in divorce. 2012, as my long road to divorce recovery progressed, I began training in discernment counseling. Discernment counseling is a structured process consisting of 5 two-hour meetings through which couples thoroughly analyze whether or not they can save their marriage. If they choose to divorce, I can help them do so amicably and respectfully, keeping their children's emotional well-being as a top priority during the dissolution of their marriage. This is one thing I believe my ex-husband and I did very well. There was no name-calling or disparagement of the other spouse in front of our children. We did not fight about custody or money and settled our divorce with 4-way meetings with our attorneys. I now specialize in discernment counseling, knowing firsthand the emotional devastation of divorce and the inevitable negative impact on children, no matter how respectful couples manage to be during separation and divorce. Because of their parents' divorce, children lose the stable family structure that was a core part of their identity. And they often feel helpless because they had no say in this fateful turn of events. I often wonder if discernment counseling had been available in 1996, if it could have saved my marriage. A marriage can only tolerate so many stressors, and mine had multiple major stressors before it came apart at the seams. Had my ex-husband not fallen in love with his colleague soon after we separated, we might have weathered the storms. Now, thankfully, we are able to celebrate Christmas at my house and be together for long weekends, celebrating our children's birthdays and graduations, in addition to our youngest daughter's wedding on Coronado Island. Thankfully, my ex-husband's wife is tolerant of all these family gatherings. Many second wives would not be so forbearing. And thanks also for my own personal journey of forgiveness and my dedication to discernment counseling and the emotional upheaval and devastation of divorce. Like all healing, my emotional healing took a village, including extensive psychotherapy, many extended Buddhist meditation retreats, reclaiming my early religious roots by joining a Presbyterian church and singing in the choir, 2 women's support groups, and a host of supportive family members and friends. There is never a perfect outcome when a marriage fails, but there are many avenues for healing divorce trauma and maintaining family ties.
Okay, let's give a round of applause. I hope Anne, you're looking at this recording later on, so you would see that. So how would should we do? Would you like to analyze that, all of us, or maybe I will just say my because
Ellen, I'm on the call. Can you hear me?
Oh, you are. Okay, great.
I was able to get on, yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So, but what do we see you then, Anne?
I'm just on by phone because I'm at the airport.
Okay. So let's analyze that. If you're there, it can be great. So what is the message of this story? No, Anne, it's not the question. Sorry, it's not the question for you. It's the question for anyone else, because you probably know for sure. And this is now the testing if the other people could feel that too. So they will be typing that in the chat box, and you will have that, the recording and the chat box, so you can check that later on. But also I will read that, so you'll hear me. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the message, as it's the most important for this story, is this is the main core that will stay with people. So Cindy says, I'm not sure. Alexa says she has many life experience that help her as a therapist. Peter says, persist, persist, persist. Cindy says, I guess it is, I am a qualified therapist. Okay. And Anne says, I've been through the trial of life, disrupted by divorce, and can help you to go through too. Great. And Ellen says, divorce does not have to severe family ties. Great. And now it's up to you. Is it correct? This is what you wanted to say as a message?
Partly, I think it's supposed to be more, well, it's kind of advertising, I guess, my skills. It's supposed to be advertising why I'm good at what I do, correct?
That was your purpose.
I thought that was the purpose of the storytelling.
Okay.
For marketing?
Yes.
For marketing?
Yes, exactly it is. But you went a little bit too far with that. So
Okay.
and I am so happy with this with the example, but because we can really learn great with that, because you have a great stuff for the stories, but because you kind of put it a little bit too far, then it doesn't. It's with the story is like that. People who listen to the story have to have that what you wrote in their mind, but you should not write that. Okay, so if you say I was ideally groomed for becoming a couple therapist, you don't need to write it. But because if you start, I grew up in a large Irish family as the fourth of 8 children, and I had to negotiate all my so people would say, yeah, well, she's perfectly done for that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of that, yes, the reason is marketing and the branding, but you do it through the stories and not through descriptions. So that's one of the things. But okay, let's go further. And the message could be very universal, and still people can feel very close. So I'm very glad that the group reads this message as a universal, because that shows that, you know, it will stay with them. So now the strength of the story. Did you see projection of the story in your mind? This is the question for the group. How would you say it? Between 1 and 6? How strong is this story for you? And tell it really like you feel, like, because what we are here is to give really like we want to be better, and we want to give the feedback which is constructive, because the story eventually have to work for you and bring you money and clients, and so it's important that we will give the good feedback. So Alexa says 3, Ellen says 2. No, there were too many themes and images. I agree. Anne says, I could see the first part of the story about Anne's childhood, but then the rest was more descriptive. Yes. Mm-hmm. So you feel like, if I can say what you said, is like we feel, and I agree with that too, it's more description than the story. It has the important informations about you, but it doesn't capture us so much, so we are in your story. We are kind of reading your story, but we are not inside. Cindy says 2. I didn't feel like a story to me, but more like a series of her qualifications. Yes, that's I think very common, which is great, because now you can rewrite it in the sense, and it really shows that that's the way that you understood that. So and that's okay. You just I'll tell you how to do it now more in the story shape, if you like. Okay, so the power of beginning and power of ending. So the beginning was, I was ideally groomed for becoming a couple therapist because I grew up in a large Irish family as the fourth of 8 children. Gosh, it's like, you know, the image is so powerful. You just start that and you have beautiful beginning, very powerful. And then the ending was, there is never a perfect outcome when the marriage falls, but there are many avenues for healing divorce, trauma, and maintaining family ties. So Ellen says 5 for the beginning or for the end? Oh, for the beginning is 5 and for the end is 3. Okay. Who else? And says beginning more powerful if it just started with the childhood experience. Mm-hmm. And Alexa beginning for 4. And Cindy says 3.5 for beginning. Oh no, 3 for beginning. Ah yes, and Alexa and for 3. And 2 mixed lost me with so many things. Okay, so that's the clear message, that the beginning and the ending should be still reworked? And would you like to become a client after hearing this story? Because that was the purpose. How do you feel from 1 to 6? Like if you read that in the internet, okay, you kind of catch the glimpse, would you feel like that's the person to go? I think Anne says you provided lots of evidence of qualification, but not enough focused personal connection. Ellen says, Monica, a question for you. Should she write about herself as a couple therapist, or is it about discernment counseling? Yes, that's a very good question, and we'll go to that in a minute. Alexa, the story would not draw me in, but then I would see all her life experience and think perhaps. Great. Cindy says, 2, I felt like I was being sold something which doesn't work so well for me. It can have a little bit of that, but it's very, very little thing that can be ameliorated, and we will not have this feeling. Thank you. So what can Anne do better next time? And I really appreciate you guys, really, because it's, you know, it's really feedback which Anne needs to have the story really perfect. So it's being between friends. We are helping her to grow. Oh, there are some kids around. Peter says, there is more intellectual evidence than emotional evidence. Great set. Yes, exactly. So intellectually, informations are there. So our reason says, yes, she is great. But then emotionally, we don't feel so much engaged. And the storytelling is more about engaging emotionally. So Anne says, focus on a single story and the message. Ellen says, limit the theme and tie compelling emotion to the theme. Exactly. Cindy, make it more personal about her journey, more specific about the process of divorce and how she got to the place of being able to have family gatherings with her ex. Yeah, this is quite amazing. Okay. Okay, so mainly that will be the path, and I will tell you in a minute what I feel like you can ameliorate and bring to your story, and the biggest advantages of the story, or the storyteller, which is no, Evelyn. Evelyn is here, so we would just say about what was the strong point of that. Cindy says, okay, that's again from the previous one. More personal about her experience with an alcoholic father, which has given her the gift of being able to work so well with the addicts. So what is great is Ellen says lots of life experiences. Alexa says discernment counseling could have helped her, she thinks. And Anne says lots and lots of experiences. They have shaped you into a capable and caring, effective therapist. You have lots of material to work with that. Exactly. Great. Thank you so much. So now, Anne, from me, if you like, I would say,
okay.
It's, you know, it's amazing, and it is very often that we great, courageous and fantastic women do as mistake while writing this story. We write about the complications in a way that they don't feel like complications almost, and you got from the group also here such a feedback, meaning that, you know, well, you had this, I mean, I could, you know, when I read your beginning of your story, as you've been, you know, Irish and 4 of 8 children, I could picture this girl, this, you know, the situation that you've been through, 8 children, and the father alcoholic, it looks like it was all so beautiful for you, and so you loved your father. You knew exactly what to do. When you were 12, you already knew everything. And I feel like, oh my God, I think there were problems. There were moments that was hard for you. And you grew, unless you're really like superhuman, but I think that had to be a little bit difficult. And when you will tell that in the story, that you come to the conclusions that you did is say in the end, but because before it was hard and you went through that, you see what will happen is that people will relate to you more. Because now I could only admire you. I said, gosh, she was so smart. I envy her. I wish to be so smart at age of 12, And so when you say this story, you say it also from this side that people have to relate in your hardships. So then this emotional glue will have this chance to kind of to grow. The same with the marriage. Okay, it was said, you says, it ended, but gosh, straight on, you knew exactly what to do, and the kids were fine, and in the end, everything was fine because you can get even great with your ex, with the new wife or your ex, and so on and so on. And this is really a very success story, showing you as a superhuman person who have all the forces and you can do everything. And it's great. And it's great if that was like that. But I don't think it was so easy. So I miss the moments of what you thought and what you felt in these difficult moments. Show me a little bit more and of your darker spots. Only not to show other like how poor you were and not to feel miserable. I know probably why you're doing that. You don't want to, to kind of put your sorrow or the feelings of those days like forward to some other people, but you need it in order so they will feel like they can relate. Okay, so
and I have a lot of that in the first version, and then I had to pare it down to 3,500 letters, so I can actually pull a lot of that and still make it shorter, but pull a lot of the more emotional stuff out of the first version.
So and you know what happened? It's very often when people have to cut down, they cut wrong parts. Right. They cut emotions and images and the informations. So what do we want? We cut the informations. We just need enough of informations to follow the line because we have to understand, but really keep the emotions and keep the images. So I really would like to know, how did you feel at this moment, especially in this particular aspect? Like, well, you were already couple counseling, right? Since 1990. And 6 years later, your marriage was destroyed. So I think the real problem here is that you were a doctor and you couldn't help yourself. So you had to feel at this time really bad. Also about you being this psychotherapist, I think.
I actually had to stop doing couples therapy for a while, and I say all that in the first version, but then I had to cut it all out.
So you have that all. So this
I couldn't even do it. Was so painful to experience the intimacy with the couples in the room was so painful. I had to stop for a period of time, a year, 18 months or so, 24 months. I just couldn't do couples therapy.
And when
it's too painful.
When you say that, I have, the chicken, how do you call that? The chicken skin straight on, because that's exactly what it had to be. And then as I understand well, this is how you started discernment counseling. And that brought you back to the couple counseling, right? Is it so?
Discernment counseling came quite a bit later. That I just, managed that on my own over time, healing to be able to work with couples again. And then my analytic training went south, and I had a bad psychoanalysis, and I said, well, I'm good at couples therapy. I'll go back to that.
Okay.
So that was kind of part of it too. And that was in the first version too, but
Okay.
Again, 3,500 spaces.
Right. I know. But that's the first time. And then this is all, you know, with the best film director, they, you know, when they write and they write and they write, and then later on they kind of cut the best parts of that away. This is why we are here, you know, to help each other and to give the feedback. So listen, as I would say now, first question is, who is your client today? Are they the addicts? Or the
they're primarily, well, half couples, half individuals, and almost all have some aspect of either substance abuse, sexual addiction, sexual issues.
Okay.
In general.
The reason I ask you, because if you are not working with addicts anymore, then the beginning of the story is not necessary. But if you are working with,
that's my couples and addiction are my two primary, and sexuality.
Okay, so they are anyway. Yeah. Okay, so then it has to be in, if it's kind of half, then it's okay. But I will probably glue more, like put it as a sequence. So which started with your family, with your father, and really let people take the moral of that themselves. So instead of saying, you know, that you ideally for that, they will know anyway. If they will, you know, you will pass them, go with them hand in hand through your story. And then try to do some transition. So like maybe as the result of what you saw, I just say, I don't know, I just, you know, improvise. So you will find a better way. Like, because you've been this little girl and you knew how bad it was between the family, and you knew how is it like necessary, and you could observe all the situation. So this is why you become the couple counselor. You know,
yeah, because I worked at a drug and alcohol center and I was a family therapist, so I met with the families there, and that's how I got into the couples focus.
Okay, so
we worked primarily with couples at an addiction treatment center.
Okay, so because it's like I have also specialized, it's like this is what you've heard from the other two here, that is like the second story. And if you will put that it was like, you know, consequence of the what happened in your childhood, then it's perfect.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I was attracted to the adult child of alcoholic. That's when all that was popular back in the mid 80s, late 80s, and that and I was attracted to that since I was an adult child of alcoholic.
Right. And you know what, I really this story of discernment counseling, it's really powerful, and especially when you say in the end, like, if that had been able, maybe it will save my marriage. So my question is, are you working with as a trainer of that now?
Not yet, but I'm gearing my practice to focus on that, because eventually I want to do only that and only work 1 day a week. In a year or two, be working 1 day a week and only be doing that. Not
okay, great, because the story leads to that. But I wasn't sure if you have enough of experience. It's again like with other stories, like you said, like my long road to divorce. I began training in discernment counseling, and then you explain what it is. But I don't feel like you have a lot of experience with that, just from story. So, but this is clearly focused to attached clients from that. It's to convince people that it works. So so maybe I don't know how far you are in that, but anyway, I would need some more of proof here.
Okay.
And you know what? For the end, I would just say, you know, the last part, like if I would cut something, I would probably really make very short the last part, which is a marriage can only tolerate so many stressors, because, you know, it's a very good story, interesting story, but it's about you. In the end, the solution, the last part of the sycamore, has to be about the client. So even if it's about you, it's more about client. And here it's still too much about you. Of course, the
Okay.
client can say, okay, yes, wow, it's great, it's possible. You can speak well with your, like, you know, with the new situation, you can find your way, but it's very private. So I will
Okay.
think how to do it in a way that the client will know that's what that will get something from you in that. And this is probably the discernment counseling, but since you are still in the beginning of the way, it's not so juicy.
Okay.
So, but I think what is really unspoken theme here, and I think very important, is this: how you could manage to overcome the problem with, I mean, this is great success that the kids were involved, and it is great. Like, you really went smooth through this process. And here you say it in 2 lines. And I think that will be a story to enlarge. Like, what was hard and how it went. And this is like proof that this type of training works really well.
Okay.
That will be the ending of this story.
Okay.
Okay? So that's
Great.
more or less what I would have to say. So you have great material, and now rework and do your story to the greatest level. Okay?
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And where are you going? To
Kansas, to a family reunion
Oh, okay.
for
Okay.
Christmas. Yeah.
Oh, great. Already? Whoa.
Yeah. We do it early before the holiday. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so we have now the story of Alexa. And again, it's a long story, so we are not going to read, which I regret because it's an amazing story. Again, so please make sure that you will have those stories and you will read them. And Alexa, you know, it's not typically a business story, but I would say is a GPS of a free woman. So it's like a manifesto almost. And through that is a business story saying that you have enough of power and you can empower and encourage women to be free. So to this extent, it is business, but it's again missing a little bit this business parts, saying like, how would I know that you, well, you say, of course, you have PhD and you do a lot of things, but still I'm not sure if you say that because you want to empower me as a woman to be free, and I love it, and the message is amazing, or you can actually really help me with that. So I will need something in the end, again, like a little bit like with Anne, saying how you can help me, especially because it's the GPS, okay? And I love the beginning. I would read you because it's really amazing. What choices really belong to any one of us? Is the roadmap of our life led out before we take out first breath? Or is it our journey really about moving beyond the tribal thinking and the immutable system around us to discover who we actually are? This is my story of my tribe and my freedom. You did something which is not very often that people do. You put the message in the beginning of the story. And here it worked perfectly. It really kind of settles down. We want to know more because it's interesting. It's something which we think often, maybe, or some of us think. So this is great to put that in the beginning. And so I would just need the information. How do you help others? Like I just don't know. And how this freedom spirits affect or translate into your client's life. Okay, and that's it. The rest is beautifully done, beautiful language, beautiful style. Everything is great. It's just this business side of that which is a little bit missing. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, look, I think we went over time or almost. over time, depending if we have 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. And I know that you have probably clients and your day is full of busy moments. But if you need me, and do you have some questions about that, because it's last time now with me, unless you will be again, and I will highly recommend that, because Anne is again, and really her story is completely different now as it was before. Already before it was great. So, you know, I hope we will meet again. But
Well, I hope you'll come back again next year.
I love you. I am addicted to you. Well, this is why I need a great therapist, you know. Just please don't heal me. And to your group, I really love your stories. And I am so honored that you open yourself up, and I can feel how they work. And I even, like, for my own life, I really feel like I am nourished with your stories and with your wisdom and with your experiences, and it make me strong. So it's really a privilege to work with you, and I'm very happy. I just wish that you will, you know, put into practice all these little advices, and you just publish it, you know, at your page. Just go with that, and don't worry. I mean, in the internet, there is such a mass of creepy, terrible stuff, boring and awful. And all your stories are great. So don't worry. Even if they are not perfect story ever, doesn't matter. Even not perfect story will work for you. So just go for that, test it, ask people, add something. In internet, you can always, you know, edit. You can always take something away, something else you can put. That's okay. And story is live, because it's oral tradition. So story can change. No one would say, no, but you wrote that and now it's not there. Nobody would notice anyway, right? So just make them work for you, because that will be a pity. Of course, I always say, even if you just write the story and you don't share with the client, it's still okay, because the story you write in your head will work for your clients too, because somehow you kind of, you know, you stay in touch with your emotions, with your feelings, with your values, with the messages that you want to spread with life, with people, and that's already beginning of your story with the clients. But if you have that and you can share that, it will work for you. You would not need to speak so much, and you will just have people who will pop onto your story and say, well, or the press also. I think that's also very important. Then the press, when they read, you know, some people from media read your story and they feel, okay, well, if I need a psychotherapist, why would I take a psychotherapist without story? I prefer a psychotherapist with a story, because this is what journalists always are watching, looking for. And by the way, congratulations for the article it was New York Times, Ellen, or I read it. It was amazing. I was so proud. I said, I know her.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, look, guys, so that's it. If you need if you have any questions, just go for that. And Ellen, please stay for a moment, because I have some great news to share with you later on.
Okay, I will stay, but just take 1 minute for people to thank you too, or to give you any feedback too. Don't just run. Anybody want to say anything to Monica?
Yes. Yeah, thank you very, very much, Monica. Writing this story, it was real interesting. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but I had a really, really interesting dream the night after I wrote this story, which I shared with my sister, and she wrote back to me, and she's, oh my God, you know, because it brought out something inside of me. So I thank you for that opportunity. I would never have written this story out without that.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Monica. I have to go on board, but thank you so much. And I really appreciate other people's honest feedback, because that's going to be really helpful in the rewrite.
Great.
So thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
I agree with Alexa. I just, I've been getting closer to ready to write some of this story, and I appreciate that push to say, okay, try it now, Anne. And it does, writing the story, you know, you're thinking, well, what's the message? What do I want to show? What's important? And it does help you it helped me clarify to myself about that journey and its impact. And it's very powerful to have that experience of writing it. And thanks all of you for sharing it with me and being part of the journey that got me to where I could write the story.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you also, Alexa. It's for me. It was like, again, if I would be watching, the movie. I mean, sorry that you've been through all that, but it's it's a powerful story.
Thank you, Monica. It was lovely to witness your passion and enthusiasm and your mastery of this. Really, it has opened up a whole map and possibility. So I really appreciated you sharing what you care so much about.
Thank you so much. It's so great to hear that. I don't know if they told you have to prepare something very nice to say in the end.
Not scripted. It was not scripted, Monica.
Because hey Pete, you have the competition.
Hey Monica, I would just like to say I'm glad you have an addiction to this process. That's the good news. There's even better news, which is there is no cure for that addiction.
Great. Thank you. I will miss you guys really. Like, I will wait for next year, and I hope I will meet some of you again. So thank you, and have a great Christmas and great year, and full of great stories, the one that you will write and also the one that you will leave. And we move from storytelling to story doing now.
Thank you, Monica, so much.
Thank you, Monica.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Aniu, możesz wyłączyć ten, czy ja muszę wyłączyć? Nagrywanie? Dobra. So we will just turn the recording. And
All right, yeah.
we have electric